What's up, guys? Welcome back. Today we're here with Gabe, also known as FPL Lens. He is one of the 6 core members of the GFCT research team that I am a part of as well. And at G Dillon put it together, and we're basically guys that came together and decided that, hey, we should have a group chat on Telegram and also just help some people out with a bi-weekly newsletter and stuff like that. More information will be either on screen now, in the description, or both. Anyway, let's get into his team and get to know him real quick. So your team's on screen right now. And I see that the thing that stands out first is the 5 defenders. But anyway, let's start off with the goalkeeper. McCarthy, I personally have the same keeper. I think it's a pretty simple choice. But what decided, or, what was your thought process behind a 4.5 goalkeeper?
I just think, McCarthy has several things going for him. First of all, hello everybody. I'm really happy to be here. So let's dive in.
Nah, you don't get an introduction.
No
You don't get to say anything.
Let's dispense with the pleasantries and dive right in. Ryan, I think is a great choice. I think, and they're comparable. I think when you compare their season stats, but when you compare their post restart stats, that I think McCarthy is just. I think they're in better, I guess, not form, but they figured something out, I think, defensively that they hadn't at the beginning of the season. So I'm betting that is going to continue with McCarthy. There's a theory out there that actually they rotate quite well if you want to spend the extra 0.5 million, and I think that's a viable strategy. I don't trust myself to rotate them effectively, and it's just a nightmare when you get it wrong. So I'd rather avoid the headache and save the 0.5.
Yeah, I mean, I would try to play devil's advocate with this one here, but I feel like I just agree. I think the reasons are there for the 4.5 keeper. It's basically just the fact that for me, the 0.5 million can be best spent elsewhere. So upgrading from a 4.5 defender to like a 5.0 defender would be better than doing the same with the goalkeeper, or pretty much the same with any position, I suppose, depending on the price range. But the point still stands.
I think even saving the 0.5 is even better than rotate.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. And I feel like that's actually underlooked within the general community because, like, it sort of feels wrong in a way to not have all your money spent. Anyway, so let's move on to the defense here because goalkeepers is you sort of just pick one, or at least I do. So 2 Liverpool defenders, Alexander-Arnold's pretty standard, and Van Dijk costs 6.5. Now, my first question would be, Van Dijk, you could go 2 million cheaper, get a solid 4.5 defender. Why have you decided to spend 2 million on Van Dijk?
Well, I'm looking at my defense in not really as individuals, but in terms of like a blocks. So I have my block of 3, and they're 3 big hitters. I would like to go Robertson, and I would if things, I guess, change. So the way I have it right now, it's 2 Liverpool defenders, and then Doherty. Those are they're nailed for me, whether it's Van Dijk or Robertson. Hopefully it can be Robertson. But these are in terms of just value for money. I look at when I'm constructing my FPL team, I look at price points irrespective of position. Okay. So at 6.5, if you look anywhere else in the game, it's really hard to find a player that even has a realistic potential of reaching the amount of points that Van Dijk is going to reach. So or Robertson for that reason, or for that matter. So if we're looking at it, like I've been focusing a lot on points per million, and defenders give you the best return on points per million by far. So what we're looking at, if we're trying to get, say, like 2,500 points, would be an amazing season and an incredibly high rank, right? To get 2,500 points, you're probably looking at, you're trying to get a little above 25 points per million per player. The problem is that let's see, of the top 10, only 2 players aren't defenders. That only 2 players give you more than 25 points per million that aren't defenders, and they're Grealish and now Lundstrom, who's a midfielder. So I want 3 players that are going to kind of maximize this. Trent gave the highest points per million last season. I expect he'll do it again. He was over 27, and Van Dijk was actually a little bit more, barely, like fractionally more. So from a value perspective, I think those are the three best value picks in the game. Is my three heavy hitting defenders.
Well, I think they're good picks. I do think that one thing that puts me off of the Liverpool defense personally is they just won a championship and they may be a little complacent, as in, in the back of their minds are thinking, okay, we play Leeds or whoever we play, we're better than them. We can just sort of step on the field and it'll just sort of happen for us, like having like a less aggressive just mentality when they step on the field. But that's just speculation. It does happen to some teams though. But I guess you're not scared about that. Obviously, you pick both of them. But about the points per million thing, I agree. I mean, I personally started off with 5 defenders last season. I mean, you've basically got a 4-4-2 here, really, because of Foden coming in for Johnson once game week 2 comes around.
This is the week 1 side.
Yes. But I will say that the argument could be made that Van Dijk, yes, he's good points per million, but when you compare his points per million to the other people in his position, such as a 4.5 defender, I don't know how that compares, but it could, would that be higher than 2 million above Souček, for example, or however you pronounce his name? You know what I'm saying? Like the points per million difference in the 2 million, So I don't know about that. You probably do.
So what would be an example of a 4-5 that you would compare that could that you think
maybe? Well, I would say Justin, but he hasn't really played. He didn't really play that much last season. A lesser defender or Vinagre. I mean, you already have Doherty, but I mean, I guess you could just go Doherty to Vinagre. But Doherty.
The only reason Vinagre is not in my squad, actually, Vinagre would be in there instead of Tierney, and I would go double Wolves defense. But he's not in there because Wolves are kind of aggressively pursuing a left back. So I'm operating under certain assumptions with this team that Wolves will sign a left back and United will sign a number 7, a right winger.
Okay, yeah. I mean, that's why Greenwood's not in the side. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. I sort of feel the same way about Vinagre. It's kind of like just the fact that, I mean, I guess they are pursuing a left back. It shows that he may be more subject to rotation as well, or like being subbed off. And it's just something I'd rather not deal with when there's other options. I don't have to deal with that. So, but yeah, I think, just quick question about Johnson. Do you think he's going to start? How certain are you about that? Game week 1.
I think he'll start game week 1.
Okay.
And that's why he's in there. If he doesn't, I would go Mitchell, just because I need a player game week 1. I don't want to start Basuma.
Yeah.
And I think Palace has a decent matchup. Yeah, Palace has Southampton. So I could get lucky with something there. So I just need a starting defender that's cheap and has a relatively good matchup. For game week 1. After that, they'll just they'll be on the bench.
Okay. So moving on to the midfield, we got Souček here. Now, I assume you're not super confident in him, but it's more of a value pick. And again, as I said, if you go down to a 4.5 defender, you can maybe upgrade him to like Madison or something, and the points per million difference could be greater between Madison and Souček than somebody like Van Dijk and a 4.5 defender. I think it's something to look into, but Salah.
I think that's a fair comparison. I think I'll look at that. And would you think is that who you would? I know you just said off the top of your head, but who would you think? Who would you look at in there around that price?
I don't know.
You're looking at like 6'5". 6'5" would be like the Traores of the world.
I mean, you could almost. I know. I get your point. There's really no great 6.5.
There's no one there. There's no one there.
So you could almost just go Saint Maximin. I mean, but is that much of an upgrade from Souček? It's like, I don't know.
Exactly. Now you see the and that's why I think that's why I went with the defender.
Yeah.
There's this dead zone of nothingness in. After Saint Maximin, right? I think that it's just like nothing for a while until you get to Greenwood if United don't sign someone.
Yeah, I mean, like a Madison pick would basically just be he's got West Brom game week 1 and some good fixtures. So it's like if Leicester are playing well, it's more hopeful than anything because he went a lot of games without being involved. But Salah and Aubameyang, any reason for no? I mean, I don't really have any questions about this. But I was going to say, any reason for, you could go Mane if you didn't have a Liverpool defender. But Salah and Aubameyang, is there a reason that you have Aubameyang captain right now, or is that just a random pick?
Yeah. No, so it's basically Fulham. Of all the teams, Fulham had the most susceptible defense in the championship of the three promoted teams, right? Had the most susceptible defense. The only thing that there's always goals, I feel like in London games, but the only thing that turns me off a little bit is that it's an away game. Salah's has Leeds home. So I don't know. It's not really anything yet, but that would be my early inclination is Aubameyang.
Okay, I've personally got Salah captain, so it's interesting to see. I just think Aubameyang is a little bit too tough to predict, and Arsenal are potentially more unpredictable. But anyway, Salah and Aubameyang, I feel like it's pretty straightforward with those two at the moment, given the
Yeah,
blanks.
I agree. I feel like that's going to be pretty templatey.
Yes, and
Um,
with good reason.
mhm.
So moving on to forwards. Now these are interesting. You got Werner and Richarlison. My first question would be, I mean, I like the Werner pick. He's a striker on a team that create a lot of chances, and they should continue to do so. Got Brighton the first game. They do have Liverpool the second game. But why not, did you think about going Ziyech instead of Werner, and then you also have more money if you do that?
Yes, I just think Werner's going to be just on the end of everything. I don't know exactly how. For me, there's a question mark with Chelsea, and that's how they're going to play. What I mean by that is here I'm bringing up some stats on most. Hold on, sorry. Um, Anyway, so Chelsea had the highest headed goal attempts last season, and I mean that makes sense when you're playing Giroud up there. But if Werner's going to be up there, like what's going to happen with Chelsea? I'm not sure if they're going to change their game plan and play more on the ground. That's what I expect them to do. If they do that, then I love Ziyech. I love Ziyech. I think he's a great pick, and I'd love to have him in my team. And I will once I bring in United and City players. So once Salah and Aubameyang go out, then I'll bring in United, City, and then I'll bring in Ziyech if they start playing like that. But if they're going to be hitting crosses to Timo Werner, then I think Chelsea's in trouble. I don't expect them to do that because that doesn't make much sense. But sometimes coaches, we all see the game differently. So if that's how Lampard played last year, if he wants to continue that this year, don't think it'll work because the weakest part of Timo Werner's game is his headed chances, where he only wins about, I think it's around 28% or 24% of aerial duels. For comparison's sake, Richarlison, whom I just wrote a thread on, he wins over 30%. So if they start doing that, I don't think Ziyech is going to be a good asset. So I just need to see how Chelsea get going. But
Okay.
I know there's going to be on the end of everything, so that's why I went with him.
Yeah, it's a fair point. I didn't. That's a good stat that you had about the Werner headed chances, and I had no idea about that. I personally have Ziyech right now, but again, it's so uncertain right now. It's almost like, okay, they're a good attack. Let's throw one of them in there at least. I just
Mm-hmm.
went on the grounds as I think Ziyech is a higher quality player that could like sort of fit into any team because he's got creative. Like if you just give him the ball, he can create a chance, and I feel like that's sort of like better for any team. So even if like the system doesn't fit him, he'll be all right, and he may be on corners and stuff as well. So that could be a nice little bonus. But
I agree with you. He's sensational, and he can create from nothing, which is
yes. So Richarlison. Now I did read your thread about Richarlison, and I think that I mean I like him as a player. I think that he's got a good aggression and good quality, but he can go through some drought sometimes, and they do start off with
Mhm.
Tottenham away. So I don't want you to recap your whole thread about Richarlison, but is there any reason why you decided Richarlison? It's going to be the age-old question. You could have went for a cheaper option that maybe has a better fixture game week one. Like Shea Adams or Mitrovic. Mitrovic doesn't have a great fixture, but you get the point. There's cheaper options here that are, it's Richarlison 8 million. He's not a midfielder anymore. I sort of expect him to be 7.5. Do you think he can be value at that price tag when there are cheaper, like nailed on starters?
I mean, I do, but this is admittedly my punt, right? This is I if if my call on Richarlison is right, this is where I expect to really gain some ground in the ranking, right? So what I expect is my back line to provide kind of a solid floor every week, my midfield to just keep me with all the other everyone else playing the game, like with those ranks, because those are kind of like the super highly owned players. And then here I'm taking a gamble. The other thing is I don't want to like change around this position, and if I get someone like I don't believe in the promoted strikers yet. Che Adams is not proven yet either. I don't know. Like he could, I would not be surprised if he blanked it even in a good matchup. So I went for Richarlison, and the main reason is I do believe they'll sign Doucouré, and Doucouré is such a powerful player on the ball, and he loves to drive with the ball, and I think that forces the opposing teams to step, and I think Richarlison's going to take advantage of spaces in there. The fact that Eric Dyer is the starting center back now at Spurs, I think actually helps Everton. Because Eric Dyer is ridiculously aggressive, too aggressive. And he's going to step to a lot of those Doucouré runs. And I just think people underestimate Ancelotti. People see there's a little bit of recency bias with Everton, and they see just the Everton I gave up at the end of last season. This is a brand new season. Ancelotti is going to have them drilled defensively, and I think Richarlison's going to benefit from an increased creativity from Doucouré in midfield.
Well, that's great. I do think Richarlison's a good, he's a solid pick, and I think the points you make there are
He's
great.
A fun.
I think I like the Dyer analysis there. I agree that Dyer is a little bit, and he's not really a center back. He is used to stepping a lot of balls as a defensive mid, so it's sort of just habit for him. Yeah, there's your point. There's your argument for Richarlison, guys. Well, it'll be interesting to see if, like the way you described it, if he actually does score a goal like that, that'll be amazing. Anyway.
Oh my god, are you kidding me? I might quit FPL at that moment. I think it would get any better than that. The other thing, hold on, I wanted to see. I'm looking up Richarlison's TSB, selected by. Okay, it's risen. He's going up. He's up to 10%, 10.7%.
Nice. I do
he
think
was low single digits a few days ago.
I do think that if Everton do have a big game week 1, I will be really tempted to jump on them for game week 2 or something like that, because it could really indicate, as you said, Ancelotti really got them right for the season. So I would be leaning towards, okay, that means Everton are good, not necessarily, that means Spurs are bad. That's just sort of the way I would look at it. I mean, who knows with Spurs, with Mourinho. But anyway, moving on. Yeah. So the final thing, which is really, I have a huge question mark here. I don't know what you're going to say, but Foden, is he going to start? Why would you get Foden?
Oh, he has to, doesn't he? I don't know. He has to start it. But so I'm thinking like I can't go without any United and City players. But if I'm going to hold one, it should be the cheapest one. So I'm not kind of wasting too much money, and I can still field a solid team game 1. And then Foden qualifies. So there he is. But I mean, I just, there's no way Pep is gonna kick De Bruyne out of midfield, throw him on the right wing, and put Foden on the bench again. Is he? I just think Foden, this is his year. I think he'll get rotated for sure. But I think this will be his year to start most games.
Okay, I mean it's in the dead zone, so I can't really say, hey, there's this other guy at the same price.
Exactly.
Personally, I think I would go. I mean, it's tough to say. It's the beginning of the season. Most of this is a lot of speculation, but 6 million striker like Mitrovic, at least he's nailed on, probably on penalties. That's just sort of the way I would look at it. Hey, at least I know he's going to get 90 minutes every game, and if Fulham are good, that's a big if. But if they are good, he's probably going to get some points, and they have good fixtures at their game week 1, or 2 at least, 2 good fixtures. But at the price range, you sort of just have to. It sort of depends on what you're looking for, and if you're looking for a high upside, Foden could definitely meet those requirements.
Well, it's also easy to swap from, for example, game week 3 when I kick Aubameyang out and bring in Bruno, right, Fernandes. Then I can also, if Foden isn't starting, then I can switch him for Ziyech, for example. It's a jump up isn't too far away from Foden.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, and the dead zone does have quality, at least in that regard. And maybe somebody will break out in that price range, and you could just pick them up, like Bowen or
I think
somebody.
San Maximan will break out. I think that's there's gonna be a lot of value in that in
Okay.
the 5 Maximan. I wish I could have him instead of Suchek, but it doesn't. I mean, I could upgrade to San Maxima if I downgrade Tierney to a
Yeah.
4-5,
Or Van
even
Dyke
or
to
even a 4.
Gomez. I mean, I
But
wouldn't do that.
no, yeah, no, those Trent is nailed, Doherty's nailed, and it's either Van Dyke or Robertson. I don't think I'm going to move from those. There's no better value in the game, and there hasn't been for a couple of years. That's pretty for me historically. It's pretty consistent, so I'm going to keep banking on that.
All right, guys. Well, you heard his explanation of his whole team. Is there anything else you would like to say? Oh, wait, one more thing. You have no Tottenham. Are you expecting a bad Tottenham start? Because they have arguably the best fixtures over the first 10 game weeks.
I'm expecting a bad Tottenham everything. I expect a bad Tottenham everything. For me, they're maybe the most infuriating FPL assets to own. I'll never own Kane. I might try owning Son if I kind of lose my way in the middle of the FPL season and lose myself, then I might bring Son in for a couple of blanks. But no Tottenham.
All right. I mean, I personally have Kane. Again, nailed on 90 minutes penalties. If they have a good start, Kane's probably going to be involved. So that's sort of the way I'm looking at it. And they do have good fixtures, but I did just get rid of one of my Tottenham defenders earlier because I'm like, they didn't keep any clean sheets last season, and I got Egan instead.
and I honestly, if I'm speaking objectively, I think Kane is a really interesting pick because if they continue the way they progressed last year, the way Kane got more involved, if that continues with these fixtures, he's gonna. I mean, at 10-5, he's gonna be a destroyer.
Yeah, you just don't know what to expect from him at all. But yeah, guys. So this is Gabe, FPL Lens. It's good to meet you. It's my second time. He actually can't see me right now, but I can see him. So
I'm looking at your YouTube photo. So hi everybody, nice to meet everyone.
Yeah, we'll see you in the GFCT chat, and yeah, thanks for coming on today. It was nice talking to you.
My pleasure. See ya.
All right, bye guys.